Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. We had a good spring break and got right back to work on Monday. I had a good practice yesterday. It was our first practice in pads, and guys flew around, did a nice job. But we knew it was going to be a little rough after a week off. But overall, we were really pleased as a staff. We just got done watching it all, and there was good energy, good emotion. There was a lot of good carryover. Obviously, there's some things that they forgot over a week, but it was the trajectory or the how we wanted to practice as far as getting a couple done before spring break, so they could just learn how we were doing things. And now we'll hit the ball rolling here for the next 3.5 weeks with 12 more practices, and we have a little bit of a break right now, and we won't practice again until Friday. But then we'll have 3 or 4 a week, the remaining 3 weeks, and kind of ramp everything up. But I was excited about the way the guys performed yesterday. It was some good contact. It'll increase once they start learning more of what they're doing. Obviously, that's the biggest challenge right now is just the installation, and their brain overload right now of all the things we're putting in. So we'll open up for questions.
I was curious about the rate of retention that guys are able to have with the install, and maybe where you forecast that over the next 12.
Well, we should have most of the install in by practice, I think by practice 6, and we just finished practice 3. We had a good amount of time before spring break where we were kind of hammering on, hey, this is going to be 1, 2, and 3, because we know there's a big break between practice 2 and practice 3. So we had some walkthroughs. We had a number of things where those guys had to be challenged to make sure that they could have some retention. Obviously, it wasn't all there, but I take defense, for example. We only had a couple of defenses in, so I thought the retention was pretty good. Now it's just getting back into the football mold of running to the football and making sure that you can keep your mental state about you as there's motions and shifts, because that's something our offense does an awful lot of, is shift, trade, and motion, and that's probably the biggest challenge it was yesterday for us.
I understand we're going to have some players in here today, and I very much appreciate that. A couple guys that I want to ask you about. First of all, Hunter Risin, what do you think of him?
Hunter's got a bright future here. I've been impressed with him in the first couple of days. He made a couple really nice catches yesterday. He's a pretty dynamic receiver. Learning a little bit more about him. I like his demeanor. I like his mentality and how he attacks the game, and excited to see what he can do. You know, we're pretty blessed to have a number of wide receivers, so you know, where can we find spots for him to be successful?
And the second guy I had, James Gilbert. Yeah,
James getting an opportunity. He's played a lot of college football, which has really helped James, and the fact that he has a lot more experience than anybody else at running back there, just from his time at Ball State, and he's picking up a new offense just like all the other backs are. But I've been pleased. He's got a great quickness, great acceleration, and sees the hole well. Obviously, we haven't gone tackling or anything like that, so we'll see how that plays out over the next couple weeks, but really pleased with James.
How's Harry Trotter coming along? I mean, I know that just kind of changing systems when he got here was a little bit different than obviously a coaching change, but how has he emerged so far for you?
Yeah, he's a pure running back. That's what I like about Harry. I don't think any of that stuff rattles him as far as what system he had at school at Louisville or what he came to here and those things. I think he's just a pure running back. I think he's pretty special with the ball in his hands. It's all the other things that he's got to continue to evolve, whether it's catching the ball out of the backfield or pass protection, and once again, learning a new system as a running back. It should probably be the easiest of the transitions, a lot easier than O-line or secondary or something, but Harry's going to be in the mix there, and once we get to some scrimmage situations, we'll see what he can do. We'll see what Tyler Burns can do. We'll see what James can do, all those guys. It's pretty wide open competition there.
Is there a player, and maybe there's not, but is there a player you've ever coached that he kind of maybe reminds you of in terms of his skill set at all?
No, we had a kid at North Dakota State named Chase Morlock that was pretty similar. You know, 'cause he was 215 plus pounds. That had enough speed and had enough burst and ran through arm tackles. It'll be interesting to see if Harry has those attributes of being able to block, being able to protect, and then be able to catch the ball out of the backfield, which I know he has a skill set to do. We just haven't evolved to that yet offensively.
Pick somebody on both sides of the ball who's kind of caught your eye through the first few practices. Who would they be?
Defensively, Justin Hughes is just a really good football player. As a linebacker, you're learning a new system, and he still plays the game really fast. You can look at any of the guys up front, because even though things change, you're a defensive lineman, a lot of things stay the same. But as a linebacker, I watch Justin Hughes play. He's just a really good football player and has really good instincts. Offensively, Dalton Schoen's just a really good football player, knows how to get open, uses his hands well, physical guy. And there's a number of guys like that you can just tell when you flip on the video and 20 plays or so go by, and you say, okay, that guy's played a lot of Big 12 football, and there's a number of guys like that. So we're really pleased. It's just trying to get everybody up to speed with the new stuff.
Coach, when we talk about putting together a new team for you, we focus on the players, but the coaching staff, how is it unifying the guys that you brought with you and all these kind of different parts you're putting together into a coaching staff?
It takes time. I mean, we're learning each other, how we coach on the field, who's leading meetings and stuff, whether it's special teams or offense, defense. I'm impressed with Coach Mess because I've been around Courtney so much, and how he's integrated Colin in, wanting input from what Colin sees as a quarterback, even though it's new to Colin. He's having some great ideas in there. It's helped on offense. We have so many guys that have been a part of the system before. On defense, it's neat to see just all the personalities. There's a lot of coordinator experience on the defensive side, and Coach Hayes has done a really nice job of implementing some different ideas that whether Buddy or Tui or Van or Joe has to try to make us better. But we're also learning each other's strengths, learning each other's weaknesses. And the one thing I've been really impressed sitting in on both offensively and defensively as we watch practice tape or anything like that is there's not any egos in the room, which is something that I didn't think there would be just with the people that I hired, but it was neat to see how they all work well together and have great respect for one another.
I'm sure it's not going to be out there, 3 days into spring practice, but when do you intend to put together a depth chart for the first time, and what would the process of that be with your coaches?
Probably sometime in August. Because we're really not going to scrimmage very much, and depth charts are so fluid. I look at it more of who are the 17 to 22 guys that can help you on each side of the ball that early in the season, because you're always going to have another 10 to 12 that you hope help you later in the season. And then the special teams part is so critical for us. We're not doing as many schematic things on special teams this spring as we are just drill work, simply because from a coaching staff perspective, I think it gives all these young players an opportunity to compete and show what they can do, because I don't know a lot of these kids' skill sets, and when you have a competitive drill like you do in special teams, oftentimes the competitive nature, the ability to change direction and be physical usually shows out, and so it won't be any time this spring for any of the depth charts.
One thing that's a change, at least to us around here, not having a specific special teams coach. What's the process of kind of everybody picking up the slack there and the reasoning for that?
Yeah, it's the way I've been a part of it in the past. I want multiple people involved. Not that there hasn't been multiple people when you have a special teams coordinator, but I think the more voices in the front of the room, for us it's great because Van Malone's going to be in charge of the punt return. He's getting to talk to a bunch of wide receivers and running backs that are going to be on that gives those guys another perspective on coaching, on dealing with adversity, whatever it may be, so that those young student athletes can take what Van tells them and take it on to later on in life, whatever it may be. But I want multiple people in the front of the room. I think that's important to expose those guys to some different coaches. And so I think I have 4 coaches. Coach Mess will be in charge of the punt, but he has 3 or 4 guys helping him. Coach Klieman will be in charge of kickoff with some help. Coach Anderson will be in charge of the kickoff return with some help. And then Coach Malone will be in charge of the punt return with some help. And then Tui will have the PAT field goal block, and then Connor Riley will have the PAT field goal. But then within each of those segments, somebody's got a left side, somebody's got a right side, somebody's got an interior. And so multiple guys, and I think that's just I think the more people you can have coaching and developing athletes, the better off you are.
I was just wanting to know, in terms of just when you're out at practice, because you're a defensive guy, do you find yourself kind of floating around there more, or do you try to just kind of go all over, check in with the receivers, check in with the quarterbacks? Kind of what's like daily at practice?
Yeah,
How do you kind of
early on I've probably been a little bit more on defense to try to help out there, just because, you know, we're trying to teach linebackers, and Coach Hayes has got the inside linebackers as well as he's got the nickel. So I've been focusing more on maybe the nickel position or the safety position because I have really good familiarity within the system at those two spots to help out either Coach Hayes or Coach Klieman, especially during these first 5 or 6 days, just with the installation. And it's hard to have one coach have eyes on everybody. So I'll do that early on. And then, but like meetings, I sit with the quarterbacks a lot in meetings. I'll go sit with the safeties or linebackers a little bit, but I want to make sure that I get an opportunity to be around a lot of guys. I'll have fun. I'll go in with the old lineman here in another week or so. I just think that's really important for me to continue to build relationships with everybody.
And then kind of a follow-up on that. How does that maybe, how you're doing it right now, compare, contrast to how you did it at North Dakota State?
Very, very similar. You know, I'm gonna get to know everybody, and that's the key for me, is to get to know everybody, build relationships with all of them. But they all know too that my background's been on defense, and so from schematics, X's and O's, technique-wise, I'll probably, you know, I'm not going to tell Coach Riley how to coach an offensive tackle where it's easier for me to help and coach a secondary player.
I was wondering a little bit about your perception to this point on the offensive line. All coaches are a little bit different in terms of sizes and what you want athletically. Do these guys kind of fit the mold, or is that something that's a work in progress?
It's a work in progress. I'm really pleased that we have so many returning guys. That's the thing that experience is hard to beat in the offensive line, because they see so many different pictures, and from blitzes to different run fits and stuff. And for us, early on in a practice, we're going to emphasize running the football. Later on in the practice, we emphasize throwing the football. So for those guys to be able to separate the two and make sure they understand some of the run reads and run fits and blitz reads, as well as then get into a third down period or a pass setting, I've been impressed with those guys. I'll maybe reserve where we're at based on once we get a little bit more contact in. And the other thing that's pretty special for those guys, and I say the same thing to the defensive line, is you get to go against guys that have played an awful lot of football. And it's not like, you know, a guard's going to just dominate Trey Deshawn the whole time, you know, or Trey's going to dominate Tyler Mitchell the whole time. I think that's the neat thing, is competition brings out the best in all of us. And that's something I think those guys on both sides of the line of scrimmage don't take for granted, that they're getting great work each day.
Switching gears a little bit, Coach. An official visit period kind of opens up in April. Is that something you typically use or will use, if at all?
Well, that's new to everybody. I think it just started last year, so in the past I hadn't used it, didn't need to use it at FCS. I don't think it was used a whole bunch in FBS, just being on the committees that I've been on. It's kind of sporadic, you know. David Shaw hasn't used it at Stanford. Fitzgerald hasn't used it at Northwestern. Some schools have used it. For us, we'll pick and choose our spots to be able to use that. Obviously, you'd like to wait until the fall when you get a game day environment. I think that's the best sell. But in the same respect, not everybody's waiting until the fall. So you try to get these guys on an unofficial visit right now. And that's what we have, these junior days, and we have a number of them throughout the spring, of trying to get those guys to come on campus. It's still the big key. How do you get them on campus, whether it's through an official or an unofficial visit? But we'll kind of keep playing that out as April continues on.
You mentioned last week that it was killing you to have the names on the back of the jerseys. You still don't know everybody. How far along are you there, and what do you do to learn a roster size?
Well, I feel pretty good. It's just sometimes when you're far enough away and you're like, wait a minute, now who's that number compared to that number? Because maybe the bodies look the same. But it's helped our other coaches. I'm probably around all of them the most, so I feel pretty good. But if you're Coach Mess and you're trying to figure out the DBs, and somebody makes a great play on a route, you don't want to say, hey, good play 12. You want to say, hey, great play, AJ. I mean, those are the things that it's still the personal touch here. And so I feel pretty confident in knowing all the guys now. But I know from an assistant standpoint, because I've been there, you get locked into your position and maybe don't get to know somebody on the other side of the ball. Well, now you can still get a name with a face, and maybe somebody splashes a play, and at least can look and say, hey, because we don't see them as much with their helmets obviously on, so those kids can, or those coaches can be able to say, hey, good job, make sure they know their name.
You were familiar with Marcus Hayes in the recruiting process. Mm-hmm. What has he brought to the table so far for the program?
You know, he's a real competitive guy. He's got really good athleticism. You know, people, I don't know if remember or recall, he led the country in punt returns last year at New Mexico. So he's a special talent, and we're playing him at free safety right now. It's a different system than what he did at New Mexico. So he's learning on the run like everybody else, but I like his confidence. I like he's got a little swagger to him as a defensive back. Really good communicator, which is what you have to be in the secondary. You know, for us, we need to have a quarterback in the secondary, and he's done a really nice job of that right now.
And his eligibility status as a transfer, does he have to sit out?
Yeah, he has to sit out. We're applying for a waiver. We'll see what happens here this spring. Hey, I'm excited. I get to watch some hoops on Friday afternoon before practice. It starts at 4:30, so timing works out pretty well. Good luck to both the men and the women. I think we're in for a great March Madness. This is a great time of year.